Okay, we're back, and now it's going to be time to make magic. So what I've done is I had the Dutch oven, I put it into the oven. Normally what I'd do is I'd leave it in there when the oven heats up, but I wanted to show it, so I put it in afterwards. Otherwise, you can leave it in there. I mean, you can leave it in there however long you want to while it heats up and get it really, really hot. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to take it out now, and I'm going to set it on the stove. I'm going to try not to get burned. Normally gloves would work much better. So open that up, and it is warm, but I aim to keep it away from me. Did that so far. I'm going to take that lid off. Right now I'm just going to leave it on. What I'm going to do though here is I'm going to take this dough ball and flip it onto the parchment. And I'm going to hope the towel doesn't stick to it too much. That's all on how much flour you put on. I've had it stick before. If it sticks, it's not a big deal. It's just dough. It's going to change shape in the oven anyway. So you can see that I'm pulling that off. And it's pretty much coming off everywhere, except for that stuck a little bit, but it's no big deal. So just to be clear on this, just to show you, you remember in the video where I made gum from it, that now it doesn't stretch anymore. There's really no, it pulled out that far before, and I could blow a bubble with it. Now, not at all. And the reason why is because it has been neutralized, that gluten, by the fermentation process. So that is good, and that now when we bake it, I'm going to get this off of my fingers a little bit. Now when we bake it, it's going to rise. Let's take a good look at this now. Okay. And I'm going to take the lid off of here. Again, keep from getting burned. I used to just drop it in there, but I sometimes would drop it crooked and I'd kind of have an odd shape. So I decided to start going with this method. Hope it actually fits. It does. That was a lot easier than trying to get it down in there with when you're pulling it off of the dish rag, or pulling the dish rag off the top, because you have to flip it over and hope it comes. So I will say that that's a much easier method. Now what I do is on the top, this isn't anything complicated. I just make a few lines. Now what some people are really good at is drawing art on the top of the dough ball. And of course, when it comes up, it looks artistic. But you know, everyone has their own art. So even though this is warm, I'm going to show you. I just made 3 slits. Now, if you want to get fancy, yeah, you can like start drawing little cuts on the edge. I'm going to show you here shortly how that looks. And then now it can be in a magazine. But you know, I plan to eat this before it's going to make it to a magazine. So you can see the diagonals. So the magazine would be a little in trouble with that because it's going to be gone. So I put the lid back on. That oven has been preheated to just shy of about 500 degrees. So now I'm going to put it in. Oh, I like that heat. Make you feel like you're in the islands any time of the year. So now that's in there, and I'm looking at a timer mentally, so I know about how long. You're going to bake that about 20 minutes or so, and then you're going to take that lid off. And then that lid, that will cause the crust to go ahead and turn brown on the top. But that initial period with holding that moisture in there gets the interior of the loaf cooked much more evenly and thoroughly, and so when it comes out, it's not still moist on the interior. So we're in business on that. That's happening. I want to go back a little bit to this starter just to say, the first day, of course, you put the 1 inch in there and water, stir it, leave it. come back, do the same thing again. And so we're done with that. Now we're going to set that aside. It's really, I mean, it's gathering steam, but it's not sour like it needs to be yet. So we're on day 2 here. We're going to go tomorrow with that. And then, like I said, once you have that starter made, it's good. So whenever, one of the things that I did want to say about yesterday when I made that loaf is after you put that starter in there, right away, just add a little bit more flour back to your starter because it's going to have been depleted. But the fact that the starter that's in the bottom of it is still strong and powerful, it will turn that new flour into starter itself overnight, just like the loaf. So it's a really magical, amazing property of how this fermentation works is once you have it done, you add a little bit to the next batch and it speeds it up by like up to 10 times, 5 to 10 times. I've never measured it, but it speeds it up. So now we have that. I'll go back to my handy dandy plastic. I'll take that plastic. I'm getting better at that. Stick that on top and set it aside. You want to leave that out while it's forming because the warm air, 70 degrees, somewhere right around there, it actually causes the reaction to happen. And if you put it in the fridge, it's going to take a lot longer. Well, it slows everything down in the fridge. That's what refrigerators are for. They slow down any food from having that reaction, that process that causes any of that to get old. If you leave it out of the refrigerator, you know it happens a lot faster. Well, that's when something's rotting or breaking down. When something isn't rotting or breaking down, what some people get confused about, this is not rotting or breaking down. This is doing an amazing property where it's lifting up and preserving itself. It's entirely different. It's exactly the opposite. So sometimes that's hard for people to realize that that's happening, but that is what's happening in this. And we're going to go into that more later with sauerkraut and other fermented foods. You have to seal them from oxygen for that to happen. But with this, it happens anyway. It just is amazing, and it'll start bubbling after a period of time, and you can watch that. But we got to get our starter made so we have that, so that then when you make bread, it takes less than 5 minutes. Because we're doing a lot of learning and going through things here, but in the end, all that you have to do when you have that in the refrigerator is you get your flour, if it's already pre-ground or whatever, or you can use your grinder, grind it real fast, pour it in a bowl, add some purified or spring water, and make a dough ball, throw a little starter in, you're done. However long that takes you to do, that's how long it takes to make bread, except for the baking part. And the baking comes the next day. But, you know, it can be a birthday cake, and you can sit there like you did when you were little and look in the window and count the minutes, but more than likely you're going to throw that in there and go do other things. And so the amount of time that it actually takes to do this is very small, and anybody can do it. And that's what is great, because you can start to eat real food that keeps you young, keeps you healthy, and makes you have fun when you're having that. You know that it's good for you. So now this is baking, and we're going to come back and show you the prize, and it is a prize soon. And then very soon you are going to have the same bread, because you're going to make it, and you're going to be amazed, and you're going to be happy. So stick around again, and it'll be a short time, and we'll show you what's going on. Okay, we've been about 20 minutes now cooking in the oven, in the Dutch oven, and I'm actually going to show you what it looks like when we open it up. So let's do that now. Okay, so I'm moving this aside, and I'm going to open the door, and very safely, and be careful, because it is hot, and that's a hot top. You really want to use a glove or doubled over dish rag many times to be able to get that out. And pull it out to where it's safe and you can get the top without touching the top of the oven. Set the lid out, push it back in, and then I turn the oven down about 50 degrees. I've never noticed a drastic difference either way, but I don't want the crust, I want it to continue to cook on the interior a little more, so I turn it down. Some people recommend to do that. You can try it both ways. The main thing, like I said again, is the simplicity of this is don't complicate it. It's going to work fine to leave everything alone. So what we're going to do now is, and for that matter, I can leave it exactly where it was just to show that. It just doesn't make a whole lot of difference. It's going to get done either way, and it's not going to get too done. The main difference is that having that Dutch oven has that lid on there and holds that moisture in. In the case you don't have one, you can use a pie pan like this and just take some water, and it doesn't really even have to be spring water. It can. You know, if you have a purifier in your house, all the better. But just put some water in there, and when you put it in, you put it on a rack right below the rest of it, or somewhere where it will fit. And when you do that, that water gets hot, obviously, and creates steam. And that steam creates that outer edge from cooking too quick compared to the inner part. You want the inner part to cook and then finish off on the outer edge. So there's ovens that you can buy that already have that built in. You can use a pan with a lid on top, and you can put water in like that. I've done it without any of it, and the bread was still good. It might have been a little bit crispy crust, but it didn't bother me any. And so I think you're going to find the same. We're going to go, I would say, roughly another 10-15 minutes. But that's dependent on when you open up, looking at that crust and seeing a golden brown crust, and then you know that that bread is done. And then we'll take it out and we'll see what happens then. In the next video, I'm going to take that bread out of the oven, and it is going to be good, and you'll be fully prepared to make it for yourself. I'm also going to show you how to finish making that starter. And if you like these videos and the ideas in them, right down below here, there's a thumbs up. Just kindly touch it for me. And also the subscribe button, and you'll be the first to be notified when new videos come out. I appreciate your support, and I look forward to making more videos for you.